was a level of spectacle, intended, I think, by the organizers because trying to raise attention to an issue. And I think in that sense, that's why I think there was also pressure on the IHH to drop out of the second one, because I think there was a sense, and again, I just spoke with some people from the group itself there a couple of days ago, and I think they had the sense that this initiative was coming to be seen as a Turkish/Islamist initiative, and I think they very much realized that they in many ways had hijacked the event. So, yeah.
I'd like to comment on that. I think that you're absolutely right that there was the nature of spectacle associated with this, and to that extent was meant to be provocative, in the sense provocative to draw attention, similar to the provocative nature that any civil disobedience would have. And we don't have to go very far to cite examples. Here in the US, it was very provocative for African Americans who were prohibited from sitting at certain counters to sit at the counter nonetheless and therefore be dragged out by police force. That was provocative. But it wasn't meant to instigate or to delegitimate the state as much as it was meant to exact certain demands, and the demand being very clear, which was for integration and equality. In a similar way, the provocative nature of these ships is meant to exact a very discrete demand, which is to lift the blockade and to let the reign of international law take over. Israel has the obligation to protect these civilians under its occupation, that it is trying to contravene that legal regime with absolute sanction because the UN, because of the very, very heavy hand of the US within the Security Council and the UN in general, has been unable to do so, as have other nations have been unable to actually challenge this ongoing regime. It was necessary, and I think it continues to be necessary, to bring this to an international light, not in order to have a proxy war, but in order to participate in the civil society disobedience, what is part of a broader nonviolent movement, which we applauded in Egypt, which we've applauded in Tunisia, which we continue to apply in Bahrain, but we're not applauding when Palestinians and solidarity activists use in order to challenge Israeli laws. I mean, I don't know how many people in this room know that, for example, in 2008, because of the blockade and the inability for Gazan authorities to be able to rebuild their sewage systems, there was a spillover of sewage into Beit Lahia and Beit Hanun, which killed 5 Palestinians and displaced 2,000 others. So one must ask, is it therefore provocative, and is provocation in terms of spectacle necessary to bring attention to these devastating conditions when they seem to be buried and included as part of realpolitik in the region, when in fact they are deplorable on a moral level and absolutely illegal as far as the Fourth Geneva Convention is concerned.
You know, my heart is totally with you with that.
Oh, I don't question that.
No, the question though is, with that rate, and maybe we don't have the answers, is this whole thing conducted in a military fashion? Even the nonviolence is a strategic thing. Does someone cross the line in order to get a response? Is there violence used to cross that line? It's the question of nonviolent means. You know, like, is it a purely nonviolent means, or is it kind of abridged in certain ways? Those are the things that kind of disrupt it for me personally.
But that's another question about nonviolent theory, what's necessary, and how it's conducted. As far as this effort is concerned in the Free Gaza movement, the Free Gaza movement has invited third parties to search all of their ships before they sail, to ensure that none of them have anything that can be even conceived as a weapon. And to the contrary, the boats, the flotilla in May 2010 was filled with hundreds and thousands of hearing aids. So as far as nonviolence is concerned, and the theory that you question, there's methods to deal with that as well, without throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
I just want to add 2 quick points. I mean, I'll give a reference to Wittgenstein, the famous philosopher. He says the pain cannot be represented. You can talk about pain, you can like tell your story, but at the end of the day, It's the most personal and non-discursive thing that happens to certain people. So I mean, why I give reference to this? Because if we can talk about all the details and the framing and representation, the media image and all these things, but at the end of the day there's a blockade down there, and that really hurts the whole regional order and whole regional balance in the Middle East. So I mean, that needs to be addressed. I mean, this is the flotilla in that sense was a way to address these things that was failed to be addressed by the states, including all the states in the region, and try to do that through civil society. So I mean, that was a new method, and it seems that some people, at least organizers, think that it worked out, and there's still necessity to do that, and they are launching another flotilla event. So I mean, this shows actually the new conditions in the region, and all the parties, including Turkey, Israel, Syria, Egypt, all the countries have to live with that fact, whether they like it or not. So having said that, I just want to add one more like comment on the broader like regional issues going on right now. I mean, there's a heavy traffic in Turkey. The Israelis, Saudis, like Syrians, like Palestinians, they all come and go like these days. Ankara is very busy, so we don't know what's been cooking right now. But I mean, whatever it's going to be cooked, that needs to have a first comprehensive solution to any of these issues, and second has to deal with real security issues in the region, and third has to help something about the blockade and Gaza and the humanitarian issue in Gaza. So I mean, when I say this, I include Syria, I include Saudi Arabia, I include Turkey, I include US, all those actors to this high calculation. So without like addressing all those issues, without coming up with these broader perspective and reducing all these things to just 2-3 countries, or for example, trying to say that Turkish-Israeli relations are in a very good mood because Turkey and Syria has been experiencing some difficulties. I don't think these things would help to really produce a solution right now, but rather it's a kind of wishful thinking because, as I said, without addressing these structural problems, I think no solution will come out.
Any other questions? Yeah.
When you were talking, I'm sorry, my name is Esther Jim from Niger Worldwide Charities. It's a nonprofit. When you were talking, you talked a lot about Israeli isolation and a sense of disconnect. And I think you also made a comment saying that Israel needed to be a little bit more friendly and to join the Arab Stream, you said? Spring, you said. But this is my question. I remember on September 11, so many years ago, when you know, the attack came here in the U.S., and all the leaders from all over the world were calling America to express their condolence and their support. I remember what the Israeli Prime Minister said when he called our president at that time, Bush. He said, after he had said everything, he said, "Welcome to my reality," if I remember. He said, "This is what I have to live with every day." You understand? So my thing is this. It's been almost most of my life I have been hearing about, you know, the conflict in the Middle East. And for years I followed it. And America has tried and failed. Many people have tried and failed. So there is a proverb in Africa, in Nigeria, where I come from. It said that if, for instance, a father dies, everybody expects the first son to bury the father. But the proverb says that if a father, the first son does not have the means, the financial means to bury the father, and the second son has it, then the second son should go ahead and bury the father because the first son did not kill the father. Now, if America and everybody else could not help to bring about peace in the Middle East, and Israel becomes more and more isolated, and then there's this flotilla, I watched it on the news when it happened and everything else, isn't there all these people who are organizing the flotilla and all this other civil disobedience, and they feel that they know a way to bring about peace in the Middle East? Couldn't they help us somehow? I mean, I don't know if I asked this question correctly, but so that's my question.
I mean, it sounds like you're going back to this question of sort of civil society and groups sort of outside of the governmental sphere. Is that what you're asking, or?
Yeah, all of that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, how can Israel, be able to put down its guard,
Mm-hmm.
be able to, relax and be part of the Arab Spring if it has to keep watching its back? That's my question.
I mean, I think it's a big question and a little bit hard to answer. I mean, I think there's a lot of factors. I think from my perspective, and again, when I'm speaking sort of about the Israeli view on this, I mean, I think one of the things that's been frustrating for me watching Turkey-Israel relations is the loss of, I think of what I said, this sort of, I don't know how to put it in any way, positive Turkish voice, at least from an Israeli perspective, on the relations. And I think the loss of, from the Israeli perspective, the loss of Turkey's friendship, I guess is one way to put it, has had a very negative effect in the sense of further pushing the country, into this defensive position, defensive crouch, so I just think it's had a very negative effect. This breakdown in Turkey's relations, and obviously Turkey has very significant problems with Israel, and as Nuh pointed out, these are structural. But I think the objective should be to find a way for the two countries to again get back to a solid footing, so that, because I think Turkey, more than many other countries in the region, would have this positive effect on helping Israel move out of its current position. I think because of the historic nature of the relationship. I think because of Turkey's position in the region. I think because of the Jewish history in Turkey, the continuing Jewish presence in Turkey. So how to get to that is not clear, and I think that's why it might be very important. And I think even SETA, maybe someone in SETA suggested this increasing sort of track 2 diplomacy, as you call it, between Turkey and Israel, in terms of cultural exchanges, NGOs meeting. I think outreach on Turkish behalf to different political groupings in Israel, because I think there's a lot of desire among certain politicians in Israel to get Turkey-Israel relations back on track. I think the current government is very problematic. So in that sense, I think a push may come. It could come from Washington or from I don't know who else, but I mean it needs to come from both countries ultimately to get the relations back on a solid footing would be very, very critical.
I think we can stop here. We are way about time right now. Thank you for coming here, and thank you for being with us at Friday noon. And I want to thank for the panelists for their insightful comments. And if you have any questions to them, you can approach them. They will be around, I think, a few more minutes. Thanks again for everyone.